Everybody, Marcia Harden,
Hey.
Oscar winner, Tony winner, amazing actress. You've seen her in so many different things, but her newest project is Barkskins on National Geographic. Tell us all about it, because I have to tell you, I didn't know what New France was. I had to look it up.
Isn't this cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? I mean, so many people are like, well, I knew there was an area where they spoke French in Canada, but I don't know why. And like, nobody's ever, it's just not part of our American history. But this is this really, first of all, it's based on this Annie Proulx book. And people might know her from Brokeback Mountain or Shipping News, right? She's this great, really muscular, poetic writer, wonderful. So she's written this 700-page book. And we're stuck in the 1690s in the very early part of the book. And it's about the moment when the French have come over to occupy the land. The English are fighting for this land. And the natives who already live there are still fighting for their land. And it's this kind of like battle and massacres and things that occur as you're discovering the new world. And basically, I think it's like people who are they were kind of like outcasts in their own countries, and they came over and they're trying to survive against all odds in this new world.
So tell us about Matilda, who's not in the book. She's a new character for the show.
She's this real ball buster. I love her so much. She's Elwood, the writer, showrunner, creator, wrote her. Well, initially she was supposed to be kind of younger, because the thing is, the women in the 1690s, what they had, I've learned all this because, of course, you know, my own education didn't tell me this. What their power was their ability to pump out babies. And apparently King Louis would put these girls, you know, they'd volunteer for it, put these girls on a boat, and they were called the Filles du Roi, the daughters of the king. And he would send them over to Canada, to New France. And their job was basically to find a guy, do well, and pump out babies. So when he was first talking to me, I was like, I'm never going to get the role because I can't pump out no more babies. But then he started kind of liking the idea about this woman who was older in the community. And he began exploring, what does an older woman's value in a community? What is it? If her value isn't having babies, what is her value? And she became not necessarily a wise woman like in the native community. They were definitely the wise women. She became kind of a nurturer for this little village. And what I love about her is he gave her these scenes where she would say, literally, I don't want a man. I don't need a man. What I want is to keep, because her husband dies in it. That's not really a spoiler alert. It's pretty early. He dies in it. And it's like, Mark, as soon as he dies, she's like, all right, now it's my time. And she wants to expand the inn. Technically, she's supposed to give it back, because women weren't allowed to own property. So she decides she wants to expand it. And she becomes this voice for girls, kind of like saying, hey, work isn't so bad. You can be out in the middle of the woods with some guy you just met, you barely know, having child after child after child, but work isn't so bad. Try coming to work for me. It's better than being out in the woods. And so she's like this early voice of a working woman, saying women have their power by being working women, by working and being valuable in the community.
And the set, tell us about the filming, because from what I understand, it was sort of you almost practically living the life. You were in the wild. You were doing this. Tell me more about that.
I tell you, I became Matilda because she was this innkeeper, right? So what is her day going to be like? 24/7, she's working, she's cooking, she's cleaning, she's like wringing the wash out on the post. She's, building the fire. She's pulling the vegetables from the garden. This girl's working. And so the crew got wind that I like to cook and that I like to bake. And so at RAP, they would say, go on in the garden, Marcia, go on in the garden. And I would, gather onions and leeks and zucchinis and all kinds of stuff. And then they would bring these eggs to my trailer, and there'd be baskets of eggs. And then I'd go home and I'd make a quiche, and I'd bring it in the next day. Or I'd make like zucchini bread, and I'd bring it in the next day. And they would say on the walk, Marcia Gay's coming in with the zucchini bread and hot. And everybody would kind of line up to have some of the fresh zucchini bread. It was kind of really cool because Isabel Guy is the woman who designed the set. And she basically built it from scratch. It's this village in the middle of Quebec that looks exactly like a village from the 1690s. It's a working village. There's working fireplaces. And she built 4 different sets that were just completely correct and authentic to the time. So you didn't have to, you can imagine, you didn't have to imagine so much, right? You were there. You were in those dresses that were dragging through the mud. You were picking the stuff from the garden. It was easy to be there and be acting these characters, be understanding them.
What is it like to get into those dresses? Because they look really heavy and
it's hard.
itchy.
I'm telling you what, it's hard. You have to have help, and they make your bosom so big. I literally had to have a seat for my bosom, an extra seat on the plane for my bosom. I'm like, they'll sit over there, and I'll be over here. I mean, because it's pulling you in at the waist, but it's shoving everything up, and then at the hips, there's like little, like almost bustles that come out. And the dresses, the material was heavy because that's what they had. It was rough and not fancy, not silky. And so when it got wet, as it did, because we'd be like crawling, you know, through the mud on the way to set, you would feel it. It'd be like a couple extra pounds, and it would take you half an hour. Normally, if you're on set, you're like, can I have 5 minutes to go to the restroom? Like, all right, 10-1, 10-1, Marcia, 10-1. And now it'd be like, can I have half an hour? And you're like, you know,
but when you
hard up here to take her.
But when you put on that dress, I imagine, you know, we hear it all the time. You walk differently. That dress is helping you become Matilda. It
truly is. And the truth is, whatever you put on affects you in a different way. Like, I love RuPaul's Drag Race. And I watch Ru all the time, dressed beautifully. I mean, gorgeously, with the perfect makeup and that walk. And I think, why don't you do that more often? Like it's the dress and the this, and it's the dress gives you the attitude, and she just walks down the aisle so beautifully. And you see the girls do the same thing when they're dressed like that. So in theater and in film, of course, it's the same thing. When you're in flat shoes, you walk a certain way. When you're in, you know, F me pumps, you walk a different way. and yeah, so this was there was a sturdiness to it, I think, that I kind of really enjoyed. It was like this sturdy and kind of a jolliness. There were these old paintings. I want to say Bruegel, but I'm not 100% positive. And there are these kind of like baker women, and they're standing in front of their bakeries, and they've got like a long loaf, and they've got these little white caps on, and there's like a jolliness to them. And that was something that I looked at when I was creating her, these baker women from that time, and just how they were so kind of happy to be doing what they did, to be working, and really peasanty, almost crass. I didn't mind that she had a little roughness around her. I like that.
And you said you were doing cooking on set, but you're doing cooking now. I saw on your Instagram you made Irish soda bread.
Got a cookbook. They had the Irish soda bread. I did. He also did brioche. I did a sourdough and an artisanal bread. My sourdough did not go well. There's a really great baker in town. His name is Giant Isaac's Bread, and he's like 21. And during this time, his dad was supposed to open a restaurant, but didn't because of COVID. And Giant loves making bread. And so he occupied the restaurant, and he started delivering bread to people's door. And he has, you know, an Instagram site, Giant Isaac's Bread. It's Jyan, Giant Isaac's. So I know him through a friend, kind of. Cameron Manheim's my best friend, and her son is Milo Manheim, who you might know, like kind of Bobby Star, Dancing with the Stars. Anyway, he's his friend. So I text him on Instagram. I'm like, Giant, I'm a friend of Milo's. I'm a mom friend of Milo's. Do you mind giving me a pointer about
you were slipping into a baker's DMs? I
was so doing that. So he texts me back and he sends me all these videos about how to make it. And I had one successful, but have you ever done it? It's not easy.
It's not. I've done Irish soda bread because you don't need yeast, right? So
you don't need the yeast, exactly.
Right.
But the sourdough, you need this yeast, and you need the starter yeast, and you have to get it going for 7 days. And I did, and I made one loaf, and it was great. And then they said, put it in the fridge if you're not ready to make another loaf. And then you can bring it back out. When I brought it back out, it was like absolutely nothing I could do would get it to go again. So I was like, whatever. I'm going to order my bread from Giant. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, my friend made some sourdough something. So I look at, he sends me the recipe. It's like, let it sit for 18 hours. I'm like, I don't know if I want this bread in 18 hours.
This is it. It was the middle of the summer, or not quite the middle, like it was warm outside. And I lit a little fire to put the bread over near the fire so it could rise for, hours and hours. I'm like, we're sweltering in the house. It's like, my sourdough.
But you also, I saw you're making soap.
Hello.
You're a soap maker.
Did you not think it was pretty though? Come on.
It was pretty, but from what I saw, you said that your flowers weren't keeping their color.
Well, I love that you're so observant. So here's the thing. You dry a flower, right? And you put it in something called silica. And then when it comes, it's like crisp and dry and poppy red. And then you put it in the soap and it goes brown. So it makes it look moldy unless you just let it sit kind of on top. And then people said, oh, put a little wax on it. So then you're like, waxing every petal is exhausting. So I just came up with different ideas, and I'm studying it now. I started, okay, don't laugh. I started naming my batches. So there was, you're in deep when you're naming your soap batches. And I did a little pottery. I've always done pottery for a long time. Ever since when I was in Angels in America, it was the first time I had a schedule for a long time in my life. And so I just took this pottery class and fell completely in love with it. And so I still do it. I'm just a little sporadic, but I still do it.
So when are you going to do like a lifestyle, forget about Martha Stewart or Marcia Gay Harden book?
I know. I'm not an expert at anything, but I really enjoy it because I think like creative people have to stay creative, right? I have to be making something. I have to also have instant gratification. So I have to kind of see the results of what I'm making. So my friend said I should start an Etsy. I didn't even know what it is, but she said I should start an Etsy. I said, maybe if COVID keeps up, maybe I will.
So I wanted to talk to you about another movie that has wrapped, Moxie,
right?
Directed by Amy Poehler, based on the novel of the same name.
Right.
You shot it. It was done before the world fell apart. So tell me about Moxie. Who do you play? And tell me about Amy Poehler as a director.
First of all, she's just a goddess, isn't she? I mean, she can do anything, and she is funny, but she's real. So she has this movie. It's funny, but it's not. I wouldn't call it like a wah wah comedy. It's not that, because it's about high school girls who are just sick of sexism, and it exists so much in high school. Look at what the boys' football team has and what the girls' soccer team has. Like, look at the attention they each get. And so these girls in high school, like, we're so sick of it. We're sick of the way the boys can kind of like, when you're walking down the hallway and goosh or whatever. They're just sick of it. They're over it. So they sort of started a little revolution in this movie. And I play this character who's a principal, and she's willfully obtuse about the sexism because the football team brings in so much money. And everybody loves them. And the captain of the football team is just so wonderful. So she's willfully obtuse, and at the end, I don't really give away the end, but I will say that it was important to me because of how the ending was, that she had that you understood what she listened to and how she listened to what she listened to, because it's never too late for all of us to look in the mirror and go, my politics have been on the wrong side. They've been on the side of commerce rather than, let's say, on the side of growth, and that's really where I think that the movie ends up. People need to be on the side of growth.
So tell me about Amy Poehler. Is she a director where you sit down and you really, sort of not tear apart the script, but really, notes and taking it apart? Is she someone who's saying, do another take, or is she like, she knows what she wants and she gets it?
All of the above. She's not unsure. She's definitely not unsure. But if you come in and you say, there's an arc here and a turn here, and I just feel like it needs one more beat, she listens. She's not insecure. People who don't listen and who are like, I know, that's insecure, like from the get-go, right? So she's not that person. She's listening. She's not insecure. She'll think about what you said, analyze it, go, okay, I get that, and she'll let you build on what you want. You can do as many takes as you want, but you also are aware of the day and what you need. I don't really think she casts divas. I think she knows better, because then they're going to hog the day. But like, for instance, there's a scene in The Office, and I happened to see a bouncy ball to sit on. And you love prop people and set deck people, because they'll put shit around the office kind of in case it inspires you, right?
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, you're going to go, oh, give me the chair and sit down. But for some reason, I was like, that bouncy yoga ball thing, that could be kind of fun. This is an angry scene, and Amy let me go. Or in a huff, I sit down, so of course you bounce off. You know? And she just let me go and have a good time with it, and didn't say no, and didn't say, which is what actors always get. Okay, that was really great, but let's do one for safety, and that means we're never going to use what you did. Just give us what we wanted all along, which is the safe, boring take, and that's the one we're going to use. And she never did that. If she was going to let me try something, she committed to it. And if it works, it works. And if I fall on my face, I fall on my face. But that's like, for me, that's the job. You go every day, you go out and you fall on your face in front of the crew. You fall on your face in front of all kinds of observers, and you slowly get to something that's meaningful, or something that holds. And that's the job of an actor. And it's hard to teach that to young ones, because they're like, what? You fall on your face in front of everybody, and that's okay? And it is okay.
So when will you feel safe going back to set? I know a lot of guidelines are, every day we're getting another email. This guild and this group puts out other guidelines on how to go back to shooting safely and, with health in mind and COVID-19. When do you feel like what do you need to feel safe to go back to set?
That's a good question. And, obviously, safety is the #1 issue, but logic is also weighs heavily on me. Mm-hmm. And so we need to, as a country, go back to work. Entertainers need to go back to work. That's my thought about it. And I'm really grateful that we're moving in that direction. For me, I think if I can go to Ralph's in a mask and gloves and socially distance and buy my groceries and be careful and bring them home and put them on the counter and wipe things down, and I'm the one going to Ralph's every day. I was at Trader Joe's in my pajamas the other day. I was like, no one's going to recognize me. They're like, if you're 60, come on in. It's like the only time in Hollywood actresses are like, I'm 60. Get out of my way. Someone's lying about their age. They're like, I'm 61. You're like, no, you're not. You're 59. It's crazy. So I'm there, like, root showing and everything. In my pajamas with my mask, and they're like, hey, Marcia, come on in. You're old. I'm like, okay, whatever. So, but anyway, I feel like if I can do that, then we can figure out a way to be on a set with wiping things down and masks and the crew in gloves and stuff, and really be conscientious about it. Mm-hmm. The people who can't do that, obviously, are the actors. So you test. Now there's tests, and there's fortunately plenty of tests. So you test and you do your temperature, and if you test negative, you can come to work that day. Right. And I'm sure there's an insurance risk, and God, I'm sure there's 1,000 things I haven't thought about. But when I really try to think about how it could be, I think about the grocery stores, and I think if they can do it, we can do it. Right. And you want the country to get back to work and feel confident in that. And if they feel confident, then we can feel confident, I think. And hopefully, and you say that until someone that you love gets really sick, and then you eat your foot.
Of course.
But that would be my thought to answer your question.
So
until we have the vaccine.
So will we be seeing you in season 2 of the morning show?
Oh, honey, from your lips to those ears. It was really fun to do that show with those amazing, powerful women, and Reese and Jennifer, and it's just some of the best work I've ever seen. And my character's kind of loosely based on Maureen Dowd, and who I worship anyway. And so it was just, it was really fun. And it was fun to tackle that subject, the Me Too subject, in another way, and kind of, it's not that you're looking at both sides and going, well, the boys have a point of view too. And, abuse is okay because it's not saying that, but it's really going, look at the misconceptions and look at the women who maybe weren't being responsible or wise themselves. And so I really think about that because I have daughters, right? And my daughters are huge feminists. And they will say to me, Mom, and they're right, I should be able to walk down the street naked if I want to, and nobody should touch me and talk to me. And if they did, F you. And I'm like, if you lived in the Sahara Desert or something, but you don't. Right. And I wish it were that world where you had that freedom, but it's not. And so to pretend like you're in a world that you're not in is just not wise. So you have to be wise. And again, not saying that these women in any way asked for it. They did not ask for it. They were taken advantage of. They were abused, but they also weren't wise. And some of their stuff, like, call me politically incorrect. I don't give a shit. If you barely know a guy and he's married and he asks you up to his hotel room for some drinks and it's late at night, don't go. That's so stupid. Like, don't go. You just want to sit around and chat with me about my job opportunities. Bullshit. Don't go. I'm sorry. That's me. And I could be reading for it, but that's me.
Do you remember when you were starting out in the business where people warned you about that stuff?
Yes, I was stupid because I was, they see value in me, until they want to put your zipper down.
Right.
Like, I guess the value was short-lived, but I learned really, really quickly. And I also learned that I was really naive. And I learned to be careful and to be tough, but I think I'm not super trusting, and I'm a little suspicious anyway.
And also I noticed one of the great things you did during quarantine is you took part in the GLAAD virtual fundraiser. Tell me about your connection to GLAAD and why it's so personal to you.
Well, it's it's actually a full circle. My first boyfriend was gay. He didn't know it, or he wasn't out at the time, and he later in '85 died of AIDS. So he was one of the first people in that terrible journey.
Sorry.
And then I was blessed to be able to do Angels in America and have all these great friendships that were gay, and they just educated me at one side and down the other. Then every other man in my life except for my husband has been gay, because they're like my hair and makeup people and my stylist and all these these really, really great people. And my son is gay. So, and he is a super amazing, brave person. And he was out in the 7th grade because I guess he was just like, I don't want to live this lie. I know that's not me. Who you think I am is not me. And who he is so much more incredible than who I ever thought, whatever I had projected upon him or the world was projecting upon him. And so to have that awareness to come to my heart and soul, which is my children. All my children are kind of like interested in non-binary. One of them, I called them, even though, sometimes they're just teaching me about that. Did I resist it? Yeah, better believe it. And say them, that's plural. They've got Mom Shakespeare. So for me, it's an education. They make me better. They definitely make me aware. But so for GLAAD, especially at this time during quarantine, there's a lot of kids who have had to go home to unwelcome homes, to parents who don't approve of them, to communities that don't approve of them. In Russia right now, what's going on over there is absolutely heinous. They're torturing and targeting homosexuals, and it's just heinous. And I guess in my life, I've just had such deep and abiding friendships with people who identify different than heterosexual, that I have to just say that, speak up. In fact, as someone was saying to me the other day, we were talking about AIDS and we were talking about COVID and we were talking about Alzheimer's, and how for AIDS there was such a community of people who really helped. They worked as a community to get through it. And he said, well, don't make any mistake. He said, the people without the lesbians, it would have absolutely been a disaster.
Yeah.
And he said the lesbians helped dying people figure out their property, figure out how to hold on to their homes so that they didn't go up for auction, so that they could go to the lover, and if marriage wasn't allowed, whatever. He said the lesbians were amazing. I thought, that's a story I don't really know a lot about either. So it's just, you turn one page from this story of identity, and it's going to make you turn the other page and the other page, and every page you just get deeper and deeper into the chapters, And so it's a book I believe in, and it's a book I want to read.
Do you remember stepping on stage for the first time for Angels in America? Because it was, you know, I saw the HBO production, I saw the Andrew Garfield production, but you, the original, I mean, it was groundbreaking. It still is groundbreaking.
Right. It was the event of my life, probably. Mm-hmm. That and having children are probably the events of my life. I was lucky to be cast in the Broadway production because I had been not as they were creating it in California. And I had gone through a really shitty breakup with somebody who was in hiding about certain things. And so the thing that was resonating for me was just anger. You know, people who lie just pisses me off. And she was doing drugs and stuff, or the characters were doing Valium. But that wasn't what was resonating for me. What was resonating for me was her anger. And she was trying to calm down from that. And so when I was in the audition with Tony Kushner, who is, you know, the modern day Shakespeare, and George Wolfe, who's like the best composer, director ever, because he like really directs in rhythm. So we're like, ba 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 ba. All right, you got to come in this door, Marcia, and you got to walk across stage, and you got to have this movement. Wow. You know, I wanted to have a rhythm to it, and so you pick up on that. But anyway, I'm in the audition. I don't know these people. I know of them, but I don't know them. And I'm doing it, and I'm crying, and I can't stop crying. And at the end of the first scene, or whatever I was crying in, maybe it's one of the I burned dinner. I forget which one it was. There's like a puddle, a snot on the floor. Like, if I stepped in it, I would slip. It was dangerous. And they're like, okay. Okay, that was good. Let's try it again. Maybe a little bit, but more controlled. But once I'd gotten that out, then you could do it more controlled. But that was something I really held on to for her, was that she was angry. She was being lied to. She wanted to have babies. She wanted to have kids. Her husband didn't want to be with her. He wanted to be with men. But because of his own upbringing in Utah, he had to lie about it. Right. And they were both living a lie. And it was incredibly painful for both of them until they were able to accept who they were and move on. So walking on the stage for the first time, I'll tell you a different story. I'll tell you, we were previewing, and the previews were like 4 hours long, you know, and then we slowly cut. Tony would cut it down. And then, and I had a beautiful red wig for Harper because she was Mormon, and I thought she was kind of like prairie girl, and I thought long, beautiful red hair was would make me seem more innocent, because of course I didn't think I was enough, right? I have accoutrements to play Harper and to seem more innocent. I was a New Yorker. And so we did previews, and we got it down to the 3.5 hours. And opening night, George Wolfe came backstage, and I'm ready to go on. It's like 5 minutes to places. And he said, you got to take the wig off. I said, no, I'm not taking the wig off.
Wait, this is opening night?
Opening night.
Right before you're about to go on stage, after you've done everything with the wig.
Opening night. Some critics had come. There were critics in the audience. Opening night, everybody you loved, everybody you knew was in the audience. Take the wig off. I said, absolutely not. And he said, no, you have to take it off. I'm like, why? He said, we can't see you. And I was so mean to myself. I was like, nobody wants to see me. You want to see Harper. You don't want to see me. I'm not, you know, on and on, beating myself up. And he said, it's hiding you. It's hiding all of you. And you're hiding behind that wig. He grabbed it. I grabbed it. We did this for a few minutes. And then he pulled it off. So
it sounds like a scene from The Real Housewives.
No, I'm telling you, it was crazy. So when I went out on stage, I was shaking because I was so exposed, right? I was so, it was just me. There was nothing anymore to hide behind. And I know, just tremulously walking across the stage and saying my first lines, I was like, oh God, here. And I had to just go, breathe, be her. But then all these other reactions and emotions and things started happening because I was so connected and so vulnerable. And of course, George knew it was the right thing to do. You know,
now, did he know? Was it that night he made the decision, or did he know? Let her play with the wig. She could have the wig, but I know I'm going to tear that Band-Aid off the night that she opens.
I think he'd been probably dueling with the idea of
Right.
it. And it was probably a very risky thing to do on opening night, because what if I dissolved, which I kind of was.
That's a big risk.
What if I dissolved? And I think he was just like, I think he just said, I know what's right. And even if she's been reviewed in the wig or whatever, I know what was right. And it's kind of amazing when a director loves you, right? And George loved me. And he felt like, I know what you can do. And I don't want you to do a run of this show hiding. I want you to do a run of this show with all of you and all the anger and all the love that you have. And he pushed me to do that. And my agent at the time was dying, and I didn't know it. And that night he came backstage, and I noted he looked a little thinner than usual, and he just hugged me so tight my bra strap broke. And then we walked down the street, and it was like a scene from a movie, because this is pre-cell phone, Mark. This is pre any of that. I don't know if you remember when the newspaper would come out from the New York Times at midnight, and people would grab it to see the review. Is the show going to make it or not, right? So we're walking down the street. I'm in my velvet gown. I'm with my agent, and we're walking down to the party, and it's midnight because it was a long play. And backstage and taking its time, and we're going down to the party, and we pass a cluster of people, and it's like that. What is that painting? There's like a light shining on a street, and then there's a cluster of people on a New York street. Do you know what I mean? It's like one particular, like a street scene. I cannot think of the painter, but it was like that. This just one light shining down, and people in a cone of light, and they were standing on. They pulled out the fruit stand, and someone with a newspaper stood up like this on the newsstand as we're walking by, and they're reading the review. They're like, and of course Frank Rich, and he wrote a love letter to Tony, and they're standing up there reading it. They're all in monkey suit, tuxedos and gowns, going like this on this New York street corner, standing on a fruit stand. And then as we walked by, someone said, "There they are. There's Marcia Gay." And people, and I just, like, I could barely tell the story without crying, because it was such for an actor, it was just such a dream come true. You just don't have these opportunities and experiences in your acting career, but maybe 2, 3, 4 times. You're lucky if you have it 2 or 4 times. So it's kind of.
And you went and got a Tony nomination for it.
Yeah,
So George knew something, and he knew that you had it in you to take that red wig off.
Yeah, it was a huge, huge moment and a huge lesson. And it, I was living in the West Village, and I just remember my dad, who's this military officer, and my mother, who's very gentle. And my dad came to visit me in the West Village because they came to see Angels. And he was walking around with his hand clamped on his ass. And I said, "Dad, why is your hand just clamped on your butt like that?" And he goes, "Oh, my goddamn wallet's in there. And I don't want anyone to steal it in New York." And I said, "Dad, you're in the West Village, honey. You might want to take your hand off your ass." He was like, "Goddamn son of a bitch." He took his hand off. He's just, but the guys would come up and they would just say, "We saw the play with my parents, and then I told them that I was gay," or "I saw the play with my parents and I told them I was dying." So to this day, I have that experience because of Tony and George and that cast, to be a part of these guys' journeys. And I think I learned so much. And every job I do, it kind of, everything meets each other, the jobs that you do. Like,
of course,
it all, Harper meets Matilda, meets, from newsroom, everybody meets each other, and they all it becomes you. It becomes what you are.
Well, Marcia Gay Harden, this is lovely. This is a great way to end a holiday weekend.
Oh, I'm so glad. I love this show. It's so, you get to if you stick with it through to the 8th episode, you're gonna be like, "No way!" It's really exciting, and it's really important. It's a really beautiful piece of history. I'm really proud of it.
Thank you so much. Barkskins is on National Geographic. This was amazing. Your story. I just want to talk to you all about your stories. When's your memoir coming out?
I know.
About those stories.
I know. I wrote one for my mother, who just passed away from Alzheimer's, but I haven't written mine yet. I probably should. I've been I'll have to leave the Trader Joe's line and
Yes.
sit down to my own stuff.
Yes, the title will be Baking Bread and Making Soap.
Yes. or I'm 60, get out of my way.
Awesome. Have a wonderful evening, and hopefully we'll see you in person soon.
All right. Take
Take care. Bye.
Bye.